And good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the show, y'all. There we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Happy Monday, as I say. Hope you had a great Monday and that you had a great weekend. And we are back here tonight on our show. Glad that you are here. In the war for your health, and that's what we've been talking about. There is so much noise. Everywhere you turn, somebody's talking about eat this, don't eat that, avoid this. And one of the big industries that's out there right now is the weight loss industry. In particular, those that talk about diets, the keto diet, the paleo diet, the low carb diet, the intermittent fasting, Mediterranean, and so forth. So tonight here on the show, we're going to be talking about those diets. What do they mean? What is the benefit of them? What are the things that people eat? What are the things that people don't eat? And what can we gather from it in this war for your health? If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower. I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to welcome you to the area with some music and a hand clap. Also, go ahead and put in the comments a Q with a colon if you have a question so that we can get to that. Well, here we are. We have been going through and talking about this war for your health, and we're continuing that tonight as we go through this discussion. If you're out there, pay attention, take notes, right? Because we're coming down that track as we are doing more and more education about what do we need to do to reclaim our health. And this one is going to be one that is you're going to want to put a note in it, right? All the other things we've talked about are great, but put a note in this one because you're going to get questions from other people and you're going to also be thinking, okay, what should I do? What can I do in my quest to be healthier? All right. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the war for your health, We'll talk a little bit about our website and some of the other things in a minute as we get on to the show. But let's just hop over. The war for our health. And here we're talking about, right? All about what? That's right. All about diets. Now, before we hop into diets, let's talk a little bit, right? One of the interesting concepts that comes out of obesity medicine, and there's a whole field now talking about obesity. In fact, my wife is an obesity medicine doc. She helps patients lose weight. And a couple of ideas that I want us to kind of talk about first as we get into these diets. Number one is the interaction of the different hormones that surround weight and food and the way we eat. And there are two in particular. One is called ghrelin and the other one is called leptin. Ghrelin and leptin. And these are like opposite sides of a coin. Leptin is the hormone that says, hey, I am not hungry anymore. It is the satiety hormone. That is the hormone that signals to the body that, hey, I don't have to eat anymore. And leptin is a hormone that's actually made by fat cells, those adipose tissues that we have in our body. They give off leptin. And the reason they give off leptin is when we are in a full state, when we are fed, when we have enough energy, then leptin goes to the brain and signals to the brain that we don't need to get any more energy. We've got enough stores. All right. So once again, the satiety hormone, leptin, when those fat cells, the adipose tissues, feel like they have maximized the amount of energy that they have, they send a signal to the brain, and the brain does other things to make us not eat as much and to decrease our consumption of energy. So you're asking a question right now, right? At least you should be asking a question right now. And the question is, wait a minute, Dr. Wood. Wait a minute. You're saying that my fat cells, when they have enough food, when they have enough energy, that they tell my brain to stop eating and not to gather anymore. But I am still eating. Yeah, buddy. So there's this whole idea that surrounds the types of foods that we eat now. And if you've been listening to the series that we've been doing over the last several weeks, we've talked about processed foods. And one of the ideas now is that our food is so dense in terms of the calories, and we have eaten in such a way that our bodies no longer have a normal process or a normal signal, right? Basically, the signal has been disrupted so that even though we have enough energy, we've brought in enough energy, then the signal doesn't get to the brain. Right? In other words, we have leptin resistance. It's similar to insulin resistance because the insulin doesn't work, right? That's the whole idea behind type 2 diabetics. In this case, the leptin, even though there's leptin there, the leptin does not work like it should. And so the brain never gets that signal that, hey, you got to stop. Okay? On the counter side to that is the hormone ghrelin. And so ghrelin is the hormone that says I'm hungry. And ghrelin is predominantly signaled or it's enhanced when we eat and we have a that sensation in our stomach that we're full. Yeah. Then ghrelin goes down and it doesn't force the brain to make us eat. So there's those opposites, right? The leptin saying, hey, I'm full. Ghrelin, when we are hungry, when we don't have stuff in our stomach, when we don't have enough energy, the ghrelin says, hey, go find something to eat. Now, in this issue, the problem that we're having is that the leptin is not working, right, for some reason, and the ghrelin is working. So the ghrelin is increasing and the leptin is not functioning well. So what ends up happening is that we end up eating. That's right. We end up eating and we never get that sensation. We never get the feeling. We never get the hormonal signal that we are full. And so we begin putting on weight. Got that? Got that? Yeah. The other thing is, right? The other idea is that because of the dysregulation, and that's the phrase, right? So because of the dysregulation between these two hormones, the body decreases its metabolism because it thinks it has to store some of the energy. And so we end up keeping more of the energy that we've brought in. And so it becomes difficult to lose weight. That's one of the things that we see. And this is the reason why a lot of times we talk about this yo-yo dieting. The yo-yo dieting, where we lose weight, we put it back on. We lose weight, we put it back on. We lose weight, we put it back on. That yo-yo dieting causes dysregulation in the leptin-ghrelin interplay. And so the body's metabolism is confused essentially, right? And if you're out there, you know, I'm not talking about the technical terms, but basically the body is confused. And so it decreases the metabolism. And because it decreases the metabolism, guess what happens? That's right. We put on weight. And a lot of this has to do with how we eat, right? All the processed foods that we're eating, the dense calories that we have, all of that plays into how these hormones get dysregulated. That is leptin and ghrelin. Okay? Yeah. There we go. All right. So that's kind of a background to what we're going to talk about. That is, on top of those, now we're going to throw in the different diets and the types of foods they eat and what they claim that they do for us in terms of our health. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Let's hop back over here. All right. And so this is the the flyer that you saw. So Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, paleo. And you know, right now, there is such a buzz about these different diets. In fact, I've been doing a series here on the show, and if you have not seen it yet, come back later this evening. We're going to go live probably about 11:45, 10:45, about 11 o'clock. And we're talking about, quarter number 4, the last quarter of the year, Q4. How do we succeed in Q4? Whether you are in a business, how do you reach those financial goals? If you are a writer and you decided you were going to write a book, how do we get there through Q4? And if you talked about wanting to lose weight, right? Sometimes as we go through the year, we get to this point of the year and we're like, okay, well, I haven't done it yet, so I'm just going to give up and I'll start back in January. People are going to be buying treadmills. People are going to be joining gyms. People are going to be getting personal trainers as we get into the end of the year and as we move into next year. And this discussion hopefully will help you position yourself a little bit as you're talking about the different diets. So let's go there. All right. So the first one that we want to talk about is the ketogenic diet. Now, the ketogenic diet, and you'll see there. Let's get back here. All right. So the ketogenic diet is a diet that is significantly reducing the amount of carbohydrates that you take in, and you replace it with fat. Reducing the carbohydrates that you take in, and replace it with fat. This reduction in the carbs, it puts your body into a metabolic state called ketosis, where it burns fat for energy. Now, this is a concept that is known in medicine, and it was known in medicine in actually a problem that we see with our type 1 diabetics, right? So let me explain the difference between ketogenic and ketosis, because that comes into play if you do have diabetes, particularly type 1 diabetes. So in a type 1 diabetic, a person who does not make insulin, their body requires insulin to use sugar. And we've talked before on this show about how energy gets into the body, how insulin works. And if you've not done so, you can go back and watch one of those videos where we talked about food and what the purpose of food is and how insulin works. But basically, insulin is the key that takes sugar and puts it into the cell. And if you don't have insulin, then the body cannot use sugar, glucose, for energy. And when it can't use glucose for energy, then it turns to another source. And the source that it turns to is fat, right? It turns to fat. It starts to break down fat, and those fat molecules give off a substance called ketones. And there are several different kinds of ketones, but when those ketones build up in the body, they cause dysregulation of other systems. And that person goes into, that type 1 diabetic, goes into diabetic ketoacidosis. So ketoacidosis is a state where the body cannot use sugar because it doesn't have enough insulin, basically. And because it can't use the sugar, it stops using sugar and it goes on to use ketone or use fat. And when it burns the fat, the fat gives off ketones, and those ketones are detrimental to the body because they cause dysregulation of a lot of the systems that function or the body uses to function. Make sense so far? So that is ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis. In ketosis, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the amount of carbs. And because a person is not type 1 diabetic, they do produce insulin. And because they do produce insulin, even though they're dropping the amount of carbs, there's just enough insulin in the body to get rid of the ketones. And so they never go to ketoacidosis, but they get pretty close in terms of building up the amount of ketones that are in the body. And when that's the case, the body flips over because it doesn't have enough sugar, carbohydrates to use. It flips over and it begins burning fat. And that's where the fat burning comes in with the ketogenic diet. Because we've decreased the amount of carbs so much that the body is forced to go over and now start burning the start burning the fat, and it is giving off ketones, but because there is insulin in the system, right? The type 2 diabetic has insulin on board, then they never flip over into ketoacidosis. I caution my type 1 diabetics about ketogenic diet because the problem is you don't know at what point someone will flip from ketogenic into ketoacidosis. And so the type 1, even though it's not true that they cannot do a ketogenic diet, they've got to be much, much, much more careful than a person who has type 2 diabetes. Okay. There are also some other things that will come about because of this significant drop in carbohydrates. They get what's called the keto flu. This is a state of significant energy depletion and dehydration, right? Because of how they are eating. And so you've got to be careful with that. All right. So back over to here. So ketogenic diet, we talked about decreasing the carbs, and then they go to about 70 to 80% fat, right? 25% protein, and then 5 to 10% carbohydrate. So notice that we have significantly dropped the amount of carbohydrates that we have in our meal to the point where the body now is forced to begin burning fat. So that's the idea behind the ketogenic diet. So that's the basic principle behind it. The foods that they eat, right? The foods that people who are trying to do the ketogenic diet will eat are meats, fatty fish, eggs, butter, cheese, nuts, seeds, healthy oils, avocado, low carb vegetables. Notice that all of those things that are on that list are things that are low in carb, as low as in carb as possible. Now, let me say this. It is not possible. I shouldn't say it's not possible. It is very difficult to do a no carb diet at all. It's very difficult to do it. It can be done. And essentially what you'll be doing is just be eating meat, right? You'll be eating meat and fish and eggs and cheese. Even the nuts that are listed, the nuts will have some carbs in them. The seeds have carbs in them. The avocado, right? The low carb vegetables still have carbs. So even though we are talking about a ketogenic diet, it still has some carbs in the system right there. Okay. And then of course, foods that they avoid, sugary foods, grains, nuts, beans, legumes, roots, vegetables, and alcohol. So those are things that they avoid in the diet. And then the benefit that people will see with the ketogenic diet is that apart from the weight loss, of course, it may improve insulin sensitivity, right? Because you've dropped the carbs so much in the diet that the amount of insulin that is present is enough to do the things that the body needs in terms of insulin usage, right? So that makes it potentially beneficial for diabetes. So some studies suggest that it may help in reducing cancer risks, Alzheimer's, epilepsy symptoms, right? So the ketogenic diet. So that's a whole nother conversation, that part about the epilepsy, right? But that is the ketogenic diet. So once again, you're dropping the carbs to the point where the body is forced to use fat. And because of that, we're burning fat and we get weight loss. The next diet is the Mediterranean diet. And this is inspired by traditional foods of countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea, right? It emphasizes whole foods, heart-healthy fats, and seafood. And that is considered, those are considered the primary source of protein in the Mediterranean diet. And so this, like I said, goes back to the area around the Mediterranean Sea. And you may remember, or when you see movies or you go to certain restaurants, right, you can see the types of foods that are eaten there. And with the Mediterranean diet, the foods that were included are vegetables, fruits, whole grain, fish, poultry, beans, nuts, olive oil, and dairy. And so those, if you look at those, there's not a whole lot of meat there in terms of red meat, but high fish, fruits, grains, right? Poultry, well, say grains, beans, nuts, and poultry. And of course, the food that we avoid: red meat, sugary sweet beverages, added sugars, and processed foods. Now, notice those last two, right? And that's a lot of what we've been talking about, or what we talked about over the last couple of weeks: the processed foods. So in the Mediterranean diet, once again, we are avoiding a heavily processed foods. All the things that you see listed: vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, poultry, beans, nuts. All of those are foods that are close to their natural form, or what we call whole foods. Because even in this diet, we realize, right? The idea is that those things that we eat currently are also causing problems for our lives, problems for our health, our mind. All of that is an issue when we talk about processed and sweet, sugary stuff, right? So that you're going to see that theme in pretty much anytime anybody talks about health. You're going to see that theme about avoiding processed and sugary foods. So that's the Mediterranean diet, right? Those are the things that we avoid in that. And this is actually a diet which has been shown, right? So let's talk a little bit about the health benefits. It's associated with heart health and reduced risk of heart disease. All right. So heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States. It's also linked with reduced incidence of cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and so forth, right? So Mediterranean has a lot of benefit. All right, so let's go to the low carb, y'all. Low carb. Now, this is one, everybody's talking about low carb diet nowadays. Now, you remember going back to Atkins. Atkins was a low carb diet, right? So you decrease the carbs in the diet to a significant level. So a diet, it reduces the overall carbohydrate consumption. It's focusing more on protein and fat intake. Protein and fat intake. Now, this is one that a lot of my diabetics, people who are actually trying to improve their inflammation in their body, this is one that they will go to, because we know that carbs tend to be associated with high inflammation. And so they've cut back on carbs. Diabetics, of course, when they cut back on carbohydrates, they don't have to use as much insulin or medication to control their blood sugars, because they're not taking in as much. So this is a good one for them as well. So what do we eat? So we eat meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and here's the big one, right? So remember, everything that grows out of the ground contains carbohydrates. All the foods that we eat contain carbohydrates. So when we're talking about carbohydrates, we want to minimize the amount of carbohydrates that are in the foods that we're eating. And so eating non-starchy vegetables, because starch, right? What's starch? Starch is a carbohydrate. So non-starchy vegetables, so you decrease them. So things like potatoes or rice or wheat products. If you cut those down, then you've automatically decreased a lot of the starches that are in our diet. And so now we go and we add nuts and seeds, right? And high fat dairy. Foods that we avoid, right, would be the counter to that. So most of the grains, the legumes, fruits, bread, sweets, pastas, and starchy vegetables. When we talk about the amount of carbohydrates that we tell our patients to eat, particularly our diabetics, we say 45 grams of carbs per meal. So 45 grams of carbs, you look at your meal and say, hey, I'm going to have, and that's 135 carbs per day. And so how do I break that up as we go through the day? Now, you can eat, one carb 135 times. You can eat 45 carbs 3 times, right? You can eat 10 carbs 13.5 times. It's up to you how you want to break that down, but those are the carbs that are allotted for the day. One of the interesting things, and I'll talk a little bit more, I gotta remember to talk about it, when we talk about intermittent fasting, is that the bigger the load of carbs that you eat at one time, the bigger the burst of insulin, the bigger the dose of insulin that you need, the bigger the swings in blood sugars you can have. So while you don't have to eat 6 small meals, 10 small meals, whatever it is, the larger the carb load that you have, the bigger impact it can have on blood sugars, fluctuations. Your blood sugars are not as stable, right? Because you've just taken in this big load. Very, very important. So what are the foods we talked about? So starchy vegetables, fruits. Now, with the fruits, and I'm going to pause here, and I'm not talking about this specifically for low carb, but just in general. When we talk about fruits and vegetables, non-starchy fruits and vegetables, well, let's just talk about fruits. One of the benefits of fruits is that within the fruit, of course, there are carbs, there are carbohydrates, right? So an orange has carbohydrates in it. An apple has carbohydrates in it. Watermelon, your melons, your berries, all of them have carbohydrates in it. But they also contain fluid, which is good for hydration. They also contain other vitamins and minerals. So while we talk about avoiding fruits and vegetables, remember that, for instance, if you compare a potato with an orange, right, you'll probably get a bigger, higher spike from the potato because all of those, all the other stuff is not in there. And when we talk about health, or something being healthy, the fruit has more stuff. I'm just going to use that. That's a nice medical term, right? Stuff in it. So I'm talking about fiber, liquids, minerals, vitamins, and so forth. Okay. So just remember that. And that's why people say that, those are healthier for you. Okay. So low carb. And so what's the benefit of a low carb diet, right? It's often used for weight loss, right? Because you're cutting back on those starches, and because you're cutting back on the starch, you're not using the carbohydrate for energy, so the body is forced to burn what? Fat once again, right? So this diet also improves heart health. It reduces insulin levels and blood sugar. Once again, if we're not putting that much in, then the blood sugars don't rise as rapidly and as high. So that's one of the benefits of the low carbohydrate diet, right? So that's the Mediterranean, the ketogenic, and of course now the low carb diet. So the next one I want to talk about is the paleo diet. But let me back up for a second and say to you that if you have not already been over to our YouTube channel, please make sure you get there, and we would love for you to subscribe. We are growing the family, we're growing the community, and we would love for you to be a part of that and help us share with other people that are out there that may not know about us. I'm just pulling that up. Let's see if I can get over there. Other people who may not know about us, let them know that we are here and that we would love for them to become a part or be a part. And that is the YouTube channel. Of course, that one right there, that is the show that we're doing right now. But there are shows on there about diabetes, about health in general, about personal development, We did a series called The Art of Letting Go. We did a series called Reinventing, Rebuilding, Remodeling Yourself, right? And then, of course, right now we are working through, and it doesn't show up here, but we're working through a very interesting and important series for Q4, right? Q4, and it is our our end of the year kind of looking forward, and it is called, hopefully you can still hear me. I think I pressed the wrong button there. This is our series, behaviors to help succeed in Q4, behaviors to help us succeed in the fourth quarter. So make sure you get over there, and we would love for you to be a part of that and to help us as we grow. Also, we yesterday came out with our new online course. We came out with our new online course, and let me get over to, let's see, where should we go? Where should I go? Because I want you to see that. If you go to our website, that's Dwayne Wood MD, and you'll be able to take a look at that. And the course is called Unmasking, and let's get over there. It's called Unmasking the Sweet Truth About Sugar, right? And so right now we're talking about sugar, right? We're talking about sugar. Sugar is so important in our metabolism, so important in the things that we do in terms of our health, diabetes, and our weight, and high blood pressure, and heart disease, and strokes, and high cholesterol, and so forth. And finding more information, getting some tools that you can use, getting through some exercises that we go through there in the course helps you as you prepare, as you get through Q4, as you get into the last quarter, as you prepare for next year, right? Because next year we're getting healthier, right? We're getting healthier. So you can get over there and you can sign up for that course. All right, so back to what we're talking about. And once again, we're talking about the war for our health, the war for your health. And in this segment, we're talking about diets, all about diets and what the diets are, what are some of the benefits of them. We've gone through the ketogenic diet, we've gone through the Mediterranean and the low carb, and right now we are going to continue with the paleo diet. And the paleo diet is based on types of foods that are presumed to be eaten by early humans, right? So they think back and say, hey, what did the humans before we came along, what did they eat, right? And so let's go back and let's look at those and let's see if we can do that. And if we can do that and we can become as healthy as supposedly they were. And so this diet emphasizes whole foods and avoids processed ones. Look at that. Do you guys hear that theme? Do you hear the theme that's through there, right? So whole foods and avoids processed ones. Processed foods, there's not a doubt in the industry right now, whether it's the health, the weight industry, endocrinologists, cardiologists, there's not anybody who's involved with health. There's not a doubt right now that food plays a huge part in the disease processes that we have. And that our ability to minimize the processed foods that we see will go a long way in helping us restore our health and avoid complications going forward. Right. So that's the war that we're seeing, the war in our health. How do we combat that? How do we put ourselves in the space where we're not getting that damage? So once again, right. So whole foods and avoids processed ones. So that's what the paleo diet is. And when we think about the paleo diet in terms of what we can eat and what we need to avoid, so eating meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and herbs. And so once again, this is thinking back to what early humans probably ate, right? Because those were some rugged folks, all right? Those are rugged folks, rugged people, because they had to survive. They had to survive on little food. They had to survive on no food. And the things that they did, they were hunter-gatherers. We are now an agricultural society. Well, a lot of us are just supermarket society, right? But we grow stuff, we cultivate stuff, we raise animals, we domesticated them. Before, they had to go catch that thing to eat. They had to go, and everything was not in season. Remember that, right? So now, if I want strawberries, I can pretty much guarantee if I go to the grocery store at any time of the year, there's going to be some strawberries. Now, the strawberries that may be there out of season may not be the best strawberries, but I can get strawberries. I can get oranges. I can get watermelon. I can get so many different fruits and vegetables, even though those things are not in season at the time, because we can ship them in. Remember, we talked about processing. We can ship them from elsewhere. We can preserve them during the wintertime, and we can eat them during the summertime, or we can preserve them in the spring and eat them in the fall. But back in the day, hey, you ate what you got at the time. And if you didn't get it at that time, then you had to wait till the next season. Of course, they had, pickling and canning and all that came about after a while. But yeah, you had to be able to catch it and eat it. You had to be able to pick it at the time and eat it. So the paleo diet. So meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and herbs. And what are the things that we're avoiding? We're avoiding grains, legumes, dairy products, salt, refined sugar, y'all, and processed oils. So those are the things that we are avoiding in the paleo diet. And what are the benefits? What are some of the benefits of the paleo diet? And so when we think about the paleo diet, the benefits that we see there is that we get weight loss. We get weight loss because we're avoiding those processed things. We're not eating refined things. We're not eating the sugars, right? We also have improved glucose tolerance. So glucose tolerance is that ability of the body to get stuff in that has carbs in it and still maintain a good blood sugar, right? When we used to test people for diabetes, we did what was called an oral glucose tolerance test. That's the OGTT. And what we did was we basically gave them a load of carbohydrates. You drink it. If you guys, those of you who've had it before, or if you've been pregnant, you get that again. You get that also. And you drink the orange stuff. And then we check your blood sugars at different intervals after you drink it. And we see what happens to the blood sugar as the sugar from the drink gets into your system. It's called an oral glucose tolerance test, right? How well can your body tolerate the glucose load that you're taking in? And if your blood sugars spike above a certain amount, then we say, hey, your body is not functioning well. Okay. So those are some of the health benefits. So blood pressure control, weight loss, improved glucose tolerance. Now look at this, right? And appetite management. Appetite management. One of the biggest, I was going to say mistakes, but let me not say mistake. One of the biggest places where people may not find that they're having success with weight. One of the things that influences or interrupts the ability to lose weight is this idea of appetite. Because if you are hungry, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're hungry, your body's going to make you eat. Now, you may decide that you're on this diet or that diet, or you're not going to eat and you're going to wait and you're going to, I'm not going to eat till tonight. But if you get hungry enough, guess what? You're eating. Your brain is going to force you to eat. So managing the appetite, managing that hunger is a big issue. And when we talk about managing hunger, one of the things that I tell patients a lot, or tell our clients, is that we want you to have enough protein in your diet, because protein helps to stabilize blood sugars. It decreases the fluctuation that you will see or that you will feel, right? Because if you're getting those fluctuations in blood sugar because you're eating something here, you're not eating something there, you're eating a high carb, high processed food here, and the blood sugar spikes, those spikes in insulin levels will make you hungry. And protein will help to stabilize that, and it will help you with satiety. That is, help that leptin, which tells your brain that you're full, that you don't need to eat anymore. It will help that. Okay. So one of the benefits of the paleo diet is that it's heavy in protein, and so hence you get more stable blood sugars, and you don't get that ravenous appetite that people talk about. All right. So that's the benefit. And then moving on in our talk about our diets, intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting has taken the world by storm. Everywhere you turn, somebody's talking about intermittent fasting. In fact, of the diets that we have, intermittent fasting is the one I recommend probably the most to my patients who have diabetes, my patients who are interested in weight loss, my patients who are interested in decreasing inflammation. Now, it is not the only diet. It is not the only diet, as we talked about. There are several that we just went through, but it is one that has shown great benefit. So let's go through that. So it's not about the type of food you eat, but rather when you eat the food. It's not about the type. It's rather when. It cycles, that should be it right there. It cycles between periods of eating and periods of fasting. Periods of eating and periods of fasting. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what happens when you fast? So when you fast, you're not putting anything in the system. And in particular here, we're talking about carbohydrates. When we don't put carbohydrates in, the insulin levels begin to go down. The insulin levels begin to go down, and because we're not putting in any carbohydrates, then after a while, the body will switch to burning fat. So we get the benefit of decreased insulin. We get the benefit of the body burning fat, right? So weight loss. We get the body the benefit of the insulin level in the body decreasing, so insulin resistance goes down. Right, so three of the big things right there. And because we are giving our body periods of time when we're not putting food into it, we are resting the body. The stomach is resting. The enzymes that need to come out when we eat are not flowing. And so the entire body is resting. There is even some thought that because the body is resting, that the mind also rests. And so there's improved mood, improved outlook on life. We get more energy. So there's a whole host of things that people talk about when they talk about intermittent fasting. Okay. So once again, it's not specifying, it's not emphasizing the food that you eat, but it's rather emphasizing the period of fasting and this period of eating. Okay. So what do we eat? Well, really, you can eat whatever you want, right? Now, as soon as I said that, let me say within reason. So within reason. And so the idea behind intermittent fasting is, and there are several ways that you can do it. So typical patterns that you'll see a 16 and 8. So 16 hours of fasting and then 8 hours of eating. You can see 12 and 12. You can see, right, lots of different combinations. But the most common are 16 and 8. So you skip breakfast and you restrict your daily eating period to 8 hours. And then you fast for 16 hours. So let me give you an example. So 16 and 8, right? So if you stop eating at 12 o'clock in the evening, so that's your last meal, and you go until 12 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the evening. If you stop eating at 6 o'clock in the evening and you go until 6 o'clock in the morning, that's 12 hours, right? And so now we just need another 4 hours. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from 6 at night to 10 in the morning would be your fasting period. And then you would start eating at 10, and then you would go 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that gives us our 6 and 8. Well, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. And so within the 8-hour period, when you are eating, you've got to eat the amount of food that you would normally eat during the rest of the day. And this is a place, let me make a comment. This eating period is a place where people often make a mistake, because what they do, in addition to restricting the period that they're eating, they also restrict the calories that they take in. So they say to themselves, hey, if this 12 hours, if this 16, 8 hours, the 8 hours that I'm eating and the 16 that I'm fasting, if that's supposed to decrease my weight and improve my blood sugars, what I'm going to do in addition to that is I'm going to restrict the calories even more so I get faster weight loss and better blood sugars quicker. And that is the wrong thing to do. Because remember I talked about the fact that when you're hungry, you're going to eat, your body's going to make you eat. Well, if you don't eat all the calories that you're supposed to eat, guess what the body does? It says to you, hey, I know you stopped eating at 6 o'clock this afternoon, and I know we're not supposed to start eating until 10 o'clock in the morning, but why don't we just go to the refrigerator and see what's over there? We're not going to eat it. We just want to see what's available when we do start eating. And so you go in the refrigerator, you open it up, you stick your head in, you close it, and you walk away. And the body says, hey, come on, let's go see. Is that is that thing that we saw earlier still in there? Right? Notice what's happening, right? We're having this tug of war because we're hungry. We didn't eat all the calories. So our body is essentially, remember that ghrelin? The ghrelin is growling, grrr, and saying, hey, come on, let's go get something to eat. And if you are like most people, you can grin and you can bear it for just so long. And after a while, you're going to be in bed, sleep, and you're going to eyes are going to pop open, and it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to get to the refrigerator and you're going to start eating, right? So don't sabotage yourself by also restricting the calories. So it's a time restriction, not a calorie restriction. Now, we need to talk about the calories that you are eating. Are you eating the appropriate amount of calories, right? So if you're eating 3,000 calories and you are supposed to, right, based on your metabolic rate, you're supposed to eat 1,800. That's a different story. But when we're talking about the calories that are appropriate for you, you should eat all of those during the time that's allotted for the eating, the breaking of the fast. Okay, the other type of pattern that you will see is people eat, stop, eat. So eat, stop, eat. So that's a 24-hour fast, either once or twice a week. So 24-hour fast, either once or twice a week. So they'll eat for today, they'll eat tomorrow, and then on Wednesday they'll stop eating, and they'll fast for 24 hours. And then the next day they'll pick up eating 2 days, and then they fast, and the next day they pick up 2 days, right? So eat, stop, eat is what that's called. And then another pattern is the 5-2 diet. So this is common where you consume only 500 to 600 calories or on 2 non-consecutive days, right? But you eat normally on the other days. So 2 non-consecutive days, you cut your calories down significantly. So 500 to 600 calories. And then the other days you just eat like you normally do, right? So a lot of different ways that you can do it. But the most common is the one that you see, the 16-8. The 16-8 is the most common. All right. And so what are the benefits? What are the benefits of the intermittent fasting? So weight loss is the most notable benefit. right? And we kind of walk through how that happens. You're decreasing your intake during that time. During the time when you're not eating, your body has to burn fat because the body needs energy to live. And so if you're not putting food in during that time, then it's going to burn the fat. And there you have to be fasting for so long before the body will switch over, by the way. Okay. So that's a whole nother conversation. So you have to be fasting long enough for the body to switch over. So you're decreasing the food that you're putting in, so the body has to burn fat. You're decreasing the insulin that you are putting in as well. And because you're decreasing the amount of insulin, remember, insulin is a growth factor. Insulin makes you put on weight. Insulin makes you hungry. So if you're decreasing the insulin, you're getting all the benefits of decreased insulin. Yeah? Okay. The other benefit, so weight loss is the most notable, but it can also reduce inflammation, y'all. Reduce inflammation. And there's a lot of data out there, a lot of studies that are being done on how exactly that happens. If you're interested in, and let me just say that for all of the diets that we've talked about, if you're interested in getting more information, go ahead and drop me a line in the chat, in the comment. Reach out to me on our social media platform, and we'll come back and we'll do a show if you want, specifically on a particular diet or on a particular aspect of a diet. But intermittent fasting, right? So weight loss reduces inflammation, improves heart health, and it boosts brain health, right? So lots of different and beneficial things there that we see with intermittent fasting. Love it, love it, love it. So the war for our health has come to roost, right? All the things that we've done, all the things that are in the society, all the things that are surrounding us, and we're trying to find more ways or better ways of reclaiming and or improving and decreasing the ability or the chances that we are progressing to more and more diseases. As I've said before, most of the diseases that we have nowadays are related to lifestyle. And a big part, y'all, a big part. Did I say big? Yeah, a big part of our lifestyle has to do with our food. Has to do with how we eat. Has to do with sleep and stress management and all of those. And those are things that we'll talk about, but tonight specifically surrounding our food. Now, here is the crux. And so let's talk about it. So we've gone through all of these diets. And let me say this to you. I'm going to say this statement. All diets work. Pause for effect. All diets work. The diet that works best for you is the diet that fits into your schedule and your lifestyle. Because it doesn't matter what the diet is. It could be like the best thing in the world. If you can't fit it into your schedule, you're not going to do it. Let me give you an example. Let's take intermittent fasting. Okay, intermittent fasting. It's a great diet or a great way of eating. Let me say that. Because it has all those benefits that we just talked about. Okay, so let's assume that you get up and you go to work early in the morning. So you get up and you got to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Or 4 o'clock or whatever. And so you say, hey, I am going to go to bed at 6, go to bed at 7, whatever the time is. And so I'm going to have to stop eating 2 hours before I go to bed, right? People typically say that, I'm going to stop eating. So you're not going to eat and then 2 minutes later jump into bed. Hopefully not. You don't do that. I've done it before and I'm trying not to do that. Okay. So I'm going to stop eating, say, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And if I'm going to stop eating 5 o'clock so I can get to bed, then I've got to make dinner and I've got to get all those things ready so that I can eat. Well, suppose the family eats at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. right? That's the normal process. The dad comes home, mom comes home, the kids get out of soccer or whatever is going on, and that's the optimal time for the family to sit and eat. And you say, hey, yeah, I can't eat at 6:30 with y'all at 7 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I've got to eat at 4 o'clock. Well, that does something for the family dynamic. And you can do that, and people try to do that, and maybe you can do that for a while. But after a while, what's going to happen? You're going to say, you know what? My family's eating at 6:30, so I'm just going to eat at 6:30. And so stopping eating at 4 o'clock doesn't work for you. And so you're not going to do it. So if you shift that around and say, okay, I'm just going to eat when the family eats at 6:30, and then that will be my time when I start my clock. It's much simpler to do, and I don't have to do two different things. So that's a simple example of where scheduling may not allow the type of diet, quote unquote, that you want to do to work. That's the first idea. The next idea is this. Nobody says that you have to only do one diet. Pause. So we have 4 seasons, right? Winter, spring, summer, fall. And we wear different clothes during each of those seasons. Right? You would think it's strange if it's like August and you come here to Alabama and you see me with a hoodie and winter coat and gloves, earmuffs. Right? You may not see that here in Alabama. Maybe you see it in New York. But you would say, wait a minute, why is Dr. Wood dressing inappropriately for the season that it is right now? But we don't allow ourselves during different phases of our life to eat differently. And you can. Because what we're interested in is we're not interested in a particular diet plan. What we're interested in is being healthy. So if during the spring, right? If during the spring, the low carb diet works better for me, why can't I do low carb? And then in the fall, I do a Mediterranean because that works better for me at that time. And then in the wintertime, I do a paleo. I mean, and I'm just throwing these out. Then of course I just throw 3 of them out. You may decide I'm going to do 2, right? Twice a year. I'm changing the way we eat because we get bored also. Things change. We go on vacation. Somebody gets sick. And so we got to adjust. What happens a lot of times is people, quote unquote, fall off of their diet and they think they've failed. Oh, well, I was on the Mediterranean, but I fell off. Oh, I was on the low carb, but I fell off. Well, why not allow the diet to be just like what we do in the season? When the season changes, it may be appropriate to change the type of thing and the way that we eat, as long as we are maintaining the health that we're shooting for. All right, does that make sense? Yep. All right, so I love that. I love this discussion, by the way. It is one of my favorite discussions to have, is how we eat and how things go. If you're out there, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. This is a great conversation to share. If you've not shared anything before, this would be a perfect one for you to share with somebody that's out there. Let them know that we are here, that we are continuing to grow our family, continue to grow the community, and they should listen to this one as we talk about the war for our health. I do want to hop over here and back to our website. Once again, that's the show that we are doing right now. And if you go back, you will see the series that we've been doing. So tonight is going to be episode number 8 right? So I've been going live during the night and having a work time where I sit and I'm actually doing work, things that I have to do on my schedule, and it's a work hour. So if you're out there and you want a space where you can come, and we don't do a whole lot of talking. Well, I do some teaching at the beginning, and then I mute and I go to work. Right. And I've had some things that have been successfully done over the last week because I've been doing what's called time blocking. That is setting a time for a specific thing in my schedule and say, this is going to be my work time. And within that work time, I'm doing work or doing the thing that I've designated that to be. Okay. So make sure you come by. That's probably going to be about 10:45, 11 o'clock tonight. So I do it for about an hour, right? 11 to 12. I'm a night owl. I stay up late, right? But on our website, you'll see all of those. You'll see all of those episodes there. And then, of course, we have been continuing, and this is the latest episode in our series, The War for Your Health. And you'll see the others that we had there. And then prior to that was our series, Living Life from the Center. Right, living life from the center. And then before that, we talked about balance. We talked about the positivity of the mind, right? Before that, we talked about how to let go, right? How to let go of things that are holding us back. How do we become better? And so you can see back and forth all of the different videos that we've done there. So make sure you get back and watch those. Now, why are we doing this? If you were over on JP High-Tech's show that we did last Tuesday, and by the way, for several of you, you couldn't find it. We had some technical issues, and so the show, it was showing on Facebook and LinkedIn and all of those during the show, but then we went back and he posted it after the show. So JP High-Tech, that's JPHIGHTEK. Get over there and watch it, because I talked about the triple formula for success. And you guys hear me say the triple formula every week when I come on. I say, hey, this is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health. That's the triple formula right there. Education gives you information. Empowerment comes when you get tools, and motivation comes when you get encouragement. And so that's what I do here. So tonight on the show, I want you to notice, right? So we've done the education. We've given you some tools, right? So now you have some tools or ways that you can go about talking about health and weight and blood sugars and general health. And my motivation is here, this community that we're building. You come on and I get to chat with you. I get to see you here. I get to know that you're here. And I get to say to you that we can do this, as I'm doing in our Q4 series. That's part of the motivation. Come on, join us, get together. Let's spend some time doing some work together, right? So motivation, education, empowerment, and encouragement is what we do here on the channel. And I see some guests. Hey, what's up, Key Washington? Thank you for coming through. And Key said, makes sense. Never thought of eating for the season. Yeah, it's huge. That's a big one. And Lashua Journey, I was hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for coming through. Glad that you guys are here and spending some time with me as we go through this important topic. So now it is a great time for our thought for the day. So let's hop over there really quickly. All right. So our thought of the day is this. As we move through the next 3 months, have you taken a look at the last 9 months? As we move through the next 3 months, as we move into the new year, have you looked at the last 9 months? Have you looked at the first 3 quarters of the year so far? What have you done? Have you looked at the things that you said that you were going to do this year? The goals that you outlined in January? You may have done that December of last year. It may be a weight goal. You joined a gym. You bought a treadmill. You bought an elliptical. You got a trainer. You got the exercise clothes. And you did that for first month, second month, third month, and maybe it fell off. You were going to write a book this year. You were going to start a book this year. And the first 10 pages, first 12 pages, 13, maybe the first 3 chapters are already done. But that fell off. Maybe you were going to work on that relationship. That was part of what you wanted to do for this year. You were going to strengthen the relationship between a mom or a daughter, a son, a child. You were going to strengthen the relationship between you and your spouse. But that didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen. Maybe you were going to start a YouTube channel. You were going to start speaking. You were going to start a new hobby. You were going to get out of a space where you find yourself right now. You were going to move out of that space and you didn't do that. It's not too late. Because as we move into Q4, as we move into this last quarter, there's still time. There's still time for the weight loss. There's still time to make those financial gains. There's still time to build that relationship. There's still time to write the book. It's still time to start the YouTube channel. Don't let the next 3 months go by without utilizing the time. That's my call to action for you tonight. What are you going to do over the next 3 months? How are we going to end the year? How are we going to start 2024? Because it's coming. Ready or not, here it comes. And we want to position ourselves to be successful. And that is our thought for today. All right. Yay. Everybody, Lashua says, so true. Yes. Let's get it done. Once again, if you've not been to the website, and our website is newly redesigned, actually just 2 weeks now, we got that redone and redesigned, and you'll see some new things that will show up there on the website. So please get over and let's pop this up so you can see what that looks like. So this is the new website, and I've got a welcome there. Of course, our 7 keys to success. You can get that. That's a free resource that's available. Our newest course, Unmasking the Sweet Truth About Sugar. Right, a wonderful opportunity to get a jump start on your health, right? Sugar, you can't have a conversation about health without sugar coming in. And as you saw in a lot of the diets we talked about tonight, sugar was there. So get over there. You can sign up. That's a self-paced course. There's a workbook that goes on. There's an assessment that you do at the end. You get a certificate of completion after you've done the modules and after you've completed that assessment. And then, of course, all the things that we've done here. Where do you want to start? Lots of stuff you can get in there and watch on our YouTube channel. You can link to that from the website. Here is a huge one. Here's a huge one. I just talked about all the things that people have said they wanted to do, things that they were going to do. Sometimes we feel like we're stuck and we don't know how to get there. I would love to come alongside you and help you through that process. If you feel stuck, if you feel restless, irritable, and discontent, I want to be in your corner, because the triple E formula, education, empowerment, and encouragement, is what I do. So you can get over to the website and you can sign up for that and see what some of our clients are saying in terms of weight and blood sugars and so forth. And then our amazing lineup of blogs that we do that comes out every week. You can get those as well. Level up your life by reading those. So make sure you get over. Thank you for being here. All of you, Lashua, Key, Washington, thank you for coming through. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and create the life you've always wanted. Thanks for being here. I'll see you later tonight on our Q4 show and next week on our next episode. Good night, everybody.